How far would you go to prove that your life still has meaning when the entire world has written you off as cursed? Imagine being stranded alone in a tiny wooden boat, miles away from the shores of Cuba, out in the vast, unforgiving Gulf Stream. Your hands are bleeding, your back is breaking, and your body is starved. On the other end of your fishing line is a creature larger and stronger than your own boat, a giant marlin dragging you deeper into the ocean. You have been failing for 84 days, and this is your last chance at redemption. This is the gripping reality of Santiago in Ernest Hemingway's masterpiece, The Old Man and the Sea. It is not just a story about a man catching a fish. It is an epic, timeless battle of survival, pride, and the untamed power of the human spirit. Part 1. The Curse of the 84 Days. Santiago is an old, weathered Cuban fisherman who has gone 84 days without catching a single fish. In his small fishing village, he is considered soleo, the worst form of being unlucky. The village looks at him with a mix of pity and dismissive neglect. His only true companion is Manolin, a young boy whom Santiago taught to fish since the age of 5. However, because of Santiago's massive streak of bad luck, Manolin's parents forced the boy to leave the old man and work on a more successful boat. Despite this, Manolin's loyalty never wavers. He visits Santiago's humble shack every night, bringing him food, helping him carry his heavy gear, and talking passionately about American baseball, particularly their hero, the great Joe DiMaggio. To the rest of the world, Santiago is finished. His eyes, however, tell a different story. Hemingway describes them as the color of the sea, still cheerful, undefeated, and deeply resilient. On the 85th day, before the sun even rises, Santiago decides to break his streak. He rows his small skiff out into the dark ocean, far deeper into the Gulf Stream than any other fisherman dares to go. Part 2. The Hook in the Deep Blue. Out in the deep water, Santiago sets his fishing lines with absolute precision. Unlike the other fishermen who let their lines drift blindly, Santiago knows exactly how deep his hooks are resting. At noon on the 85th day, something massive takes the bait at 100 fathoms deep. Santiago feels the weight instantly. It is a marlin, but it doesn't behave like any ordinary fish. Instead of jumping or panicked thrashing, the creature begins to swim steadily out to sea, pulling the small boat behind it. Santiago cannot tie the line to the boat, because the sudden jerk of a giant fish could snap the rope or capsize the skiff. Instead, the old man becomes the human anchor. He wraps the thick cord across his back, shoulders, and arms, using his own flesh and bone to endure the fish's immense pulling force. As the sun sets and darkness blankets the open ocean, the epic standoff begins. Part 5. The Legacy of the Skeleton. Santiago stumbles out of his boat, completely broken. He carries his heavy mast up the hill to his shack, collapsing onto his bed into a deep, death-like sleep. The next morning, the village wakes up to a shocking sight. A crowd of fishermen gathers around the skiff, completely amazed by the sheer scale of the 18-foot skeleton. Tourists at a nearby cafe look out at the water, completely misunderstanding the tragic journey, mistaking the marlin's remains for a common shark. Manolin finds Santiago alive in his shack and bursts into tears when he sees the old man's ruined, mutilated hands. The boy promises that from now on, they will fish together again, regardless of what his parents or the village say, because he still has so much left to learn from the old man. The story ends with Santiago sleeping peacefully, dreaming once again of the lions he saw playing on the beaches of Africa when he was a young man. Part 3. The 2-day agony. For 3 agonizing days and nights, Santiago and the marlin remain locked in a silent war of endurance. The physical toll: the line cuts deep, bloody gashes into Santiago's palms. His left hand suffers a severe, debilitating cramp, locking up like a claw. He is forced to eat raw tuna and baitfish just to keep his strength up, all while battling extreme sleep deprivation. The mental bond. In the loneliness of the sea, Santiago begins to feel a deep spiritual connection to the marlin. He does not hate the fish. In fact, he calls it his brother. He admires its beauty, its calm majesty, and its lethal strength. Yet, his masculine pride and professional duty dictate that he must kill it. Whenever the pain becomes unbearable, Santiago thinks of Joe DiMaggio playing through the agony of a bone spur, and he remembers his own youth, when he won a legendary 24-hour arm wrestling match against the strongest man in Casablanca. On the third day, the exhausted Marlin finally begins to circle the boat. Santiago, nearly blind with fatigue and seeing black spots, uses the very last ounce of his life force. As the giant fish swims alongside the skiff, Santiago lifts his harpoon high and drives it deep into the Marlin's heart. The magnificent creature leaps out of the water in a final, breathtaking display of life before crashing dead into the sea, turning the water red. It is 18 feet long, larger than Santiago's boat. Part 4. The Shadows in the Water. Santiago's victory is short-lived. The Marlin is too large to fit inside the skiff, so he is forced to lash it to the side of the boat and set sail for home. However, the trail of blood leaking from the Marlin's heart acts as a beacon in the deep water. An hour later, the first predator arrives, a massive mako shark. Santiago defends his prize with ferocious bravery. He drives his harpoon into the mako's brain, killing it instantly. But as the dead shark sinks, it takes Santiago's harpoon and rope with it. And it has already taken a massive 40-pound bite out of the Marlin. More blood fills the water. By nightfall, shovel-nosed sharks attack in packs. Santiago improvises, lashing his knife to the end of an oar. He stabs and kills them one by one in the pitch black until the knife blade snaps. He then uses his heavy boat tiller to club the predators as they tear away at the flesh. It is a losing battle against nature. By the time Santiago finally reaches the harbor in the dead of night, the sharks have eaten everything. All that remains attached to his boat is a colossal, ghostly white skeleton, completely stripped of meat.